Monday came down. Welcome to RGR football, because the Chiefs don't have a left tackle. They don't really have a right tackle either, and we didn't see this coming. There's a lot to it, and the decision is always tough. I know you guys have questions. We're going to give you the answers. There's a couple of scenarios that come into play with the release of Orlando Brown, no tag for him, the release of Frank Clark. That's a little bit different scenario. A lot of change coming. Can't say we're terribly surprised about Frank. We'll talk about Orlando and what it means. Dan Harms is with me tonight. Welcome to the show, everyone. This is RGR Football. He's Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy. I'll get our actual names up here because I'm slow with this kind of stuff. This is going to be fun. I thought we were going to have another, week. I thought the tag would go on, and then we'd be having this conversation when it was close to extension time. But Orlando Brown, still, I would say, underperformed for the whole season, but he did come on really big late. Does it surprise you they've been unable to work out an extension at this point?
No, because we have to take the totality of the season into consideration. And the fact of the matter is you have to scheme an offense around your left tackle, essentially. He has to get chips. He has to have help, because you can't – I fully believe they can't run everything they want to because of Orlando Brown and because of the inability that he is as an athlete. And I think that limits part of what they can and can't do, especially because you have to have Jerick McKinnon out there a ton chipping. He can't just go out and release. Like he's got to have some responsibility first. Like it takes away from what you can do. So, and I heard from James Palmer today that their camp thinks that there's no reason to lower their number, which is a problem, for being very honest, because you're not a top tackle in the league. He's not. Let's just be where it is. He's not a top tackle in the league. Probably top 10.
And I think what this sets up is a couple of scenarios. And folks, let us know what you think. I see some comments and some super chats. We will definitely get to all of that. We'll answer every super chat tonight. I know there's going to be a lot of questions. We will get there. Go ahead and throw those in. We will try to consolidate them so we're not overlapping with everyone. But if you want to support the channel, that's the easiest way to do it. The other way is to grab some gear. You can get the MVP gear. You can get the Rogue Nation gear that Dan's got on. He's got his own stuff in harm's way. And by the way, I do want you guys to know, yes, today too, this is what rebuilding looks like in Kansas City, because there are certain similarities as to what happened this time of year last year. We're going to talk about that coming up too, because we got to, as much as we want to be a fan-based channel, we're not. we are trying to think this through analytically first. That's what we do. If you're new to us, we are analysts first, fans second, but we do follow this team really, really closely, and we do root for them really hard. So that said, I was surprised. I was surprisingly, to everyone else that I've talked to, I did just already record the Locked On Chiefs show, so you guys can check that out soon. I didn't take it as a there's no way Orlando Brown is in Kansas City reaction. Did you?
I wasn't aware of that, but again, I did also hear James Palmer say he thinks it's a 0% chance it gets done, which is surprising to me. I know that he's a pretty well-connected person in terms of guys that he has in Kansas City. He's pretty well connected. The fact that he has said that he thinks it's a 0% chance is very interesting to me, because I don't think that's possible for it to be a 0% chance unless they're just like, guess what? You're not budging. We're not budging. You're not getting the tag. And guess what? Your trade market is not there. Your free agent market is not there. So
that's where I'm at. I think James is right in that it's not going to happen before the deadline.
Yeah.
I think he is going to hit free agency. I don't think Orlando Brown's going to like what he finds. I think he's going to find some offers in the 12, 14 range.
Also, teams saying, guess what? You're a right tackle. We'll sign you if you play right tackle. That's probably what's going to happen.
Now, that said, at 14 a year playing on the right with Broderick Jones on the other side, I think I'm pretty happy with that. I can live with him as a right. But you bring up a very good point. I don't think it's over is my only point. They couldn't come to agreement. Fine. I really don't think he's going to like the market that he finds, the offers that he gets. I don't think they're going to be earth-shattering, because in the end, I think what he pronounced himself to be is not what he actually is. He thinks he's a premier left tackle. He's not. He didn't even make enough jump this season, despite training in an unorthodox way, which usually triggers you for some adaptation in a positive way. I don't feel like he really improved that much. I felt like he spent most of the season getting back to his previous level of play.
Mm-hmm.
He did take an incremental step in the playoffs. I'll give him that.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of that is battling guys that are underpowered against him. Like he actually played into him a little bit. Son Reddick was never going to overpower Orlando Brown with his reach. I guarantee you, folks. The reason you saw him on the other side of the line. But so there is a slim possibility in my mind that he could come back on a lesser deal, a la Demarcus Robinson. DeMarcus is always the guy that I go to because DeMarcus is like, I'm getting paid. Y'all remember me saying I was going to get paid? Where am I getting paid? Let's go. Where am I getting paid? And it just didn't happen. So I think we could see a similar scenario there. But hey, Jeremy, you put it a really good way. And Gary, good evening to you, sir. That's what we're here for. Reality check. Everybody loves the idea of hoop and hollering because we're all fans, right? But in the reality check world that we like to provide, hopefully things don't get us on the downside. We'll celebrate the surprise on the positive side, but it pisses me off to get blindsided with something negative. So that said, Donnie, you're our first super chat of the night. Thank you for your support, buddy. With letting go of Frank Clark and the strong possibility that Brown will not be here, can the Chiefs still be better than this last year? I will posit to you this, and Dan, this is you answer for Donnie.
Okay.
If you told me a year ago we're going to jettison Tyreek Hill, like the marquee guy next to Mahomes on every poster, on every series, we're going to get rid of him. And in the Super Bowl, we're going to run, I don't know, 6 rookies. I would have panicked. I would have told you there's no way. So I will say this, Donnie, in talent evaluation, I think we've come to understand that we can trust Pat Sperduto, we can trust Ryan Nutt, we can trust Mike Borgonzi, and we can trust Brett Veach. The whole chain, all the way up. And area scouts, I know some of you guys watch the channel. Cheers to you. You do a hell of a job, and I'm sorry I don't know all your names. But I'll start with Pat because I've actually spoken with him, so so that's the way that goes. But that to be said, the same thing will apply this year for the edges and the tackles and the defensive linemen and the wide receivers, which are the 4 biggest needs in my opinion. Are there corners that are sexy after this last weekend? There sure as hell is.
Yeah.
But let's not get sidetracked. I think what you're going to find is, yes, there's still a strong possibility that with a little bit of free agent fairy dust and another really well scouted and well researched rookie class, they can get back to the Super Bowl. Will they have the same strengths? No, but they can be as good, and at least in my standard, good enough to win another championship. It's a little scarier when you're talking about 2 of the 4 pillars of football, though, in the left tackle, the pass rusher, in not, corner, but corner is one of the other ones. So like it's close, but now you're trying to fill. And for those of you who feel, Dan, you might be one of them, is wide receiver the 5th pillar of modern football?
Yes, it is. I fully believe it is now.
So if you take it in that terms, the Chiefs have to fill at least a starting spot in 3 of the top 5 positions, 60%. That is a little scary. I still feel it can be done enough to get back to another championship. Do you?
I do. And you have to, I think we kind of have to remember that trades do still happen. Like, I think that they might be something not off the table, especially if you go into this offseason saying, okay, Frank, we tried to get something done here. You probably wanted a little more than you're worth. We understand that. We'll see how your market is. We'll come back to it in 2-3 weeks, maybe. We'll see how it works. Orlando, okay, we tried it. Okay, we did. We won the Super Bowl. That money for this year, it's not happening. You're not getting it this year. Period. And I think that now, after what happened with Tyreek Hill, they have found their lines in the sand. Figuratively.
Okay, you're triggering me a little bit.
So they're saying we will go up to a certain point with players, whether it be Tyreek Hill, Orlando Brown, to a certain point that they have figured out from a draft standpoint, the guys that they target, that they know how to develop, that they can figure out how to get immediate returns on. And they're using this as a platform to show players that want long-term contracts. We just started 6 rookies last year. What makes you think that we can't figure out a way to do this again and replace you? Okay.
Yeah.
And that, I think, when you can figure that out as a front office, as the scouts, as the area scouts, when you have that pegged down now to a science, you can show these guys that want their longer term contracts, their bigger contracts. You might get that somewhere else. You might. But guess what? If you don't, you're not coming back here unless it's for less money, because we can figure out how to make it work. And I think when you have that line in the sand, that's a really good position to be in, because you can then continue to churn out young prospects and get more money to sustain your organization and this dynasty, which is what it is, for long-term success.
I looked ahead a little bit. I cheated. Right now, they are only committed to 112 million on next year's cap, which we expect, that the 2024 cap, which we expect to be somewhere in the 240-ish range by my count. I think. Oh, see, now over the cap has it at 256, so drastically bigger than even I thought. So, I mean, they're in really, really good shape for that. So this is, again, you have to extend a couple of guys. You got to get through this year, but I think you're going to be in okay shape. So it is very much that, hey, we've replaced other guys before. We can do it again. If you want to be part of this, if you want to be part of the legacy Orlando Brown, you need to come back with us with a reasonable offer.
Yep.
Okay. I don't think that happens until after the market's tested. We'll get to that here in a minute. But if you guys would hit that thumbs up right now, we would really appreciate it. It tells YouTube that you like what we're doing, and then it shows it to more Chiefs fans. And that's really why we're here. Football fans in general, but Chiefs fans, you know. So, Donnie, thank you for that question. We appreciate your support, brother. Clinton, does Tommy Adewale get a hard look from us at 31? If the Chiefs are still at 31, I don't know if he is, but yes, if that's the scenario, yes, he gets a very hard look from them. I expect him to be a top 50 grade on their board no matter what, and maybe for them a bit higher. Maybe he is in the 30s.
Yeah, it's hard to overlook a full season from a guy. It really is, because his tape, again, I was listening to Dane Brugler today. He was like a 4th, 5th round prospect coming into the Senior Bowl. Now we're talking 2 weeks or 2 months later. Essentially, he has catapulted himself into a top 50, but you can't ignore each thing's individual. Like, okay, he had a suspect year, and then he blows up the Senior Bowl, he blows up the combine. You can't just ignore both things. You can't just say, okay, well, we're not going to throw out the tape and we're going to only stick with this guy. He's a top 30 player on our board. And you can't just throw out the combine and say, well, he's a 3rd round pick because his tape is. So you have to find that middle ground. And for the Chiefs specifically, we know that they like those higher upside players. So I'm with you. He's going to be higher up on their board. I did my first mock draft Monday on Twitter today, and he was my pick at 63. We know that's not going to happen. He's not going to be there. He's going to be a bit higher. But I did this first one with no trades, no nothing, staying where everybody is. I like the way it turned out. But that's just kind of how it works. He's probably going to be somewhere. If he drops to the 2nd round, they would have to trade up to get him. But yes, hard luck.
I tend to think so too. I was on radio last night here in Denver, and I put it this way: Tommy had the season that had the combine that Kalijah Kancey wanted to have, and Kancey had the season that Tommy wanted to have. So somewhere in the middle is where it comes together. So I think they're both reasonable. But yes, he's been lifted. I'm going to go back. I have defensive end production pretty much wrapped, thanks to Jeff Porter. If Jeff's in the chat, everybody give him a hand. Jeff is our lead researcher at Rogue Analytics. He does a ton of the stat work to help me out, and he's a master at it. So give him a hand.
Behind the scenes,
dude. Oof, I could not get it all done if it wasn't for him.
Nope.
And that allows me to concentrate on the Matrix, which I've made a lot of progress already. I'm early. That's why it's available for pre-order, folks. You can get it now. Let me throw it up here just so everybody can get a quick look at where they can grab it. And I will try not to overlay Dan because I always do that to him. You can get it right now at Rogue APC. That's where it sits. Let me undo that right there. So it's the 2023. There's other versions available. So make sure when you go order, get the 2023 version. So it's a pre-order on that and you're not getting last year's or anything, because I know that's a pain. But check that out because it's going to be early and I'm doing 2 versions of it this year. You're going to get the Combine Edition now. I should have it done, knock on wood, by next Tuesday, if not earlier. And then I'll definitely have the end of year done just before the draft, like the final of every time that I got from any pro day anywhere in the country. It's a lot, but it's also going to be wrapped up. The the end results are going to be wrapped up into the draft guide that Dan helps write. We're doing a ton of the film work together. We have a great crew that's going to help us with the grading of all the players on film. We'll have more film grades for you to go with the production and the athleticism. And I have that ready to go for pre-order. We'll probably launch that next week as well. So keep tuned for that. Again, Donnie, thank you. And thank you, Clinton. Next question was, if Mahomes hits his cap, does he ever go over 60 million? It will be fine because the base salary will be high enough by then. They built it so the base salary is convertible every year. Let me take a look at the structure of it real quick, and I'll even show you guys because I know folks like to see stuff. Just don't look at all my open tabs. I am a tab addict. I don't close tabs.
You're not the only one
because I'm terrible. But what you see here is total numbers. His cap number hits, I think 49 is the max. No, it's 59 is the max. It does not go over that. So right there, that's an opportunity right here in year 2027 where you can look for them to do another extension and really just lay that out further down the line is my thought. You see how it's different in that the cap numbers literally in the 40s starting this year on for like 4 seasons, then boom, it's a 60, and then it goes back down. So look for that to be about the area that they look to redo Pat's deal. But as you can see here, all these roster bonuses are convertible, and that's how they're able to get cap money back. And so that's the real reason why the cap will be fine. That compared with, let's see, let me go back to the last screen, show you exactly what I was looking at, folks, because I think it had the projected numbers. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, here's the projected numbers. So 256 in 2024, 282 in 2025. And the Chiefs have 174 available. That's with the Mahomes contract. That's with Travis, who I think is all the way through 2025. So there's plenty there. And shout out to Jason over at OTC. Check out Over the Cap here. You can see it on the screen. That's where I'm getting a lot of my information. Spot Track's great as well. It's just a little bit different of a site. And for different things, I use them for different purposes. Christo, what would a move for Cam Jordan from the Saints make sense? I don't think so. Cam's the highest guy on their cap this year. I think he's at 23 mil. And I don't think there's much of a restructure you can do or conversion to get more than 5 or 6 back on that. So then you're talking about spending the Orlando money that was the tag now on Cam Jordan. I just don't think they can pull that off.
They shouldn't either. It doesn't make any sense. A guy who's aging, and granted, he was a great player, and I'm just declining. He is declining. It's what it is.
Let's make sure. Folks, hit the thumbs up if you would. And if you are not one of our subs yet, go get subbed right now. I'm going to give you a no BS members vid this week. So make sure you're there and you join at the rookie level or above. I want you to answer Steve's question here, one of our longtime members, but he wants to know who's rising up the board for you this week. And does it have to do with the combine, or are you just watching more film?
I mean, I'm always watching film, so that's just always happening. The guys that I'm watching right now aren't going to be for consideration at 31. I'm watching the cornerback class. I just don't think the Chiefs, unless, again, something crazy happens and they trade somebody that they shouldn't trade. I don't see it happening at 31. But, I mean, I've felt this way the whole time. Darnell Wright not only made himself some money at the combine, I've always thought he was a first-round pick. I think he's been soaring up other people's draft boards as well. And it comes down to need, and the Chiefs are looking like they're going to need tackle, a right tackle, a right or left tackle. And it doesn't really matter if you're talking about 31, 63, you got to get somebody. And I think Darnell Wright right now is going to be somebody that's on their board. He's an athlete, and he's big. He's a big dude. He's got long arms. He's not like Paris Johnson, who benched well, surprisingly.
With 36,
Functional strength is not exactly on the tape, but it is, in my opinion, from Darnell Wright, which is a little bit different. So I think that he's somebody at 31 the Chiefs will be considering, that everywhere else, especially after the combine, he'll be coming up.
Now, folks are going to say, what about DeJuan Jones? DeJuan Jones is Orlando Brown. That's what he is. He's a monster of a man with a barrel chest and long, long arms. What you get in Darnell Wright is a guy that's long like he is, but actually has feet closer to Paris Johnson's, who was the smoothest tackle at the combine. Pretty easily, to tell you the truth. I wish Broderick was smoother. I don't care that he's not, because he's got all the power and the nasty in the base. And it's funny because Daniel Jeremiah was actually pointing out the number one note on my board for Broderick Jones is he plays with the base that can't be beaten because he can't get bull rushed out of that base. That does happen to Paris Johnson. Now, nobody's a perfect thing, but both those guys have risen pretty well. They were already in the first round. Another guy that I do want to point out as rising is my guy, and you're going to see him in the piece Dan and I are working on for NFL 33 that I'm sorry, Dan, I didn't get as far as I wanted to. Just get used to saying Yaya. You're going to hear about Yaya from me. He's another guy that's coming up. I don't know that he's in first round consideration. He's definitely in 63 consideration for me. So let's we'll have plenty more on him as we come close, and I'll stop clicking stuff, Dan. Just
trying to keep it up.
Since they're not tagging Brown, they have to think that they have a deal is imminent, right? Otherwise, tag and trade to get return on investment. No, that's really the thought here, is that they don't think they were going to get any interest in a trade after they tagged him, because at that point the tag's been applied. They could rescind it, but then he becomes a free agent like he's going to now, right? So any other team would have to be comfortable with the tag number plus for the extension that he would receive in any kind of trade. Clearly, they've had feelers out, and they weren't liking the answer they were getting. And they're not going to pay him the tag money. They don't want to do that. So the only thing to do is now let him go, let him get his bad message, sour grapes, whatever you want to call it, from somebody else, and say, listen, if I'm only going to make 14 a year, I'd rather make it in KC and have a chance at another ring.
Yeah, and I think that when you come back from the combine, this is the part that really gets to me. All teams are at the combine. Everybody is. So tons of conversations happen at the combine between teams, between front offices. Agents. There is only one reason that you come out the very next day from the combine and say, we're not tagging you, because they don't think that there's any value to do that. You don't want $20 million on the cap this year. So you think, okay, maybe we tag and trade. Other teams don't want $20 million on the cap hit for him and having to give up a prospect for that. That was found out over the weekend. Had to have been. Otherwise, it doesn't come out today that they're not going to tag him.
Yeah,
that just doesn't make sense.
If you noticed, it was very thin on additional media appearances by Brett Veach and Andy Reid at the combine this year.
Yeah.
They generally are people who like to get out in front of cameras, make their pinches, because they know they can blow it off for the next 6 months, right? They didn't do that. That means they were talking. That means they were busy. And that is significant. We've seen this happen before at a couple of other specific combines. I don't go to the combine anymore. I haven't gone since like the early 2000s, right?
I need to go.
And I need to get back to it. Maybe we'll have a plan next year, but
maybe
so much business gets done there. It's almost ludicrous because you can get one thing done with one person. I might be able to get an interview, or I might be able to talk to one of the guys I know and get a little inside information. But while I'm doing that one thing, there's 30 other things going on around the league that I cannot keep track of. So it becomes very one direction no matter what anyway. That said, Tony's got a great question, and thank you, Tony. Buy or sell draft edition. Anthony Richardson goes number 1 overall, or Jalen Carter falls out of the top 10.
Okay.
I will say this. The combine did nothing to change either of those guys' fortunes this weekend. I think a lot of people are going to tell you that it changed something for Anthony Richardson. It didn't for me or anybody who's watched his film, because he's been that good of an athlete on film forever. He didn't throw anything different. He didn't prove that he can make decisions making or process defenses any better than he has on film. So while it's really nice to confirm that he can run 4.44 or what is it, 4.43 in the end, whatever, it doesn't change the evaluation at all. For most people,
while you're right, he's going top 10.
He's not going. But the question is he going first?
No, and that's because of what CJ Stroud did beside him. Because I believe that Bryce Young is the best quarterback in the class. But if you were to tell me right now that CJ Stroud plays like he played in the national or in the semifinal game for his career, he starts doing that more, I would take CJ Stroud number 1.
It's a safer
I would
pick.
do it tomorrow.
It's a safer pick. I agree.
It's not even just a safer pick. That version of a 6'2" quarterback is better than what Bryce Young could possibly do at his size. If we're being honest, Bryce Young is going to get hurt.
Eventually, yes.
Eventually. Yes, it needs to be.
He's been lucky at dodging contact throughout his career in college, which he's going to have to rely on pros. And somebody asked me this over the weekend, and I put it to him this way. I was like, He is a less defined, less muscular, smaller size Jalen Hurts. He can run if he has to. He shouldn't, because he can't take the pounding that Jalen can take. That's going to be his downfall in the end.
Yep. But so, yeah, I'm with you. Sell Anthony Richardson and buy, or.
So does Jalen Carter fall out of the top 10? I'm buying that.
I don't buy either of them.
You don't think so? You think Jalen stays in the top 10?
I do.
Okay.
They got 2 months to figure this out. He seems pretty confident in his own side, so we'll see how that turns out. Again, I really think going back to the combine to finish his interviews and this next 2 months to get everything figured out will still keep him in the top 10. But as more information comes out, I reserve the right to change my opinion.
Yeah. No, and kudos to Jalen Carter, because it proved that he wasn't super shook and he was mature enough to deal with it in a way that he could put out the fire right then with everybody else he talked to the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
I do think it does affect his stock, though, because it is a more significant risk now.
Yeah.
Statute of limitations go on for years. Yeah, exactly. So I will take that he falls out. Okay. Good question, Tony. Appreciate you. Jeremy, so do you think that we tag any player, perhaps Juju? Juju is not worth the tag money, in my opinion, which is going to be what, 18-ish?
You cannot tag Juju Smith-Schuster for $18 million. You can't do it. I don't think they're going to tag anybody.
That's kind of the way I'm leaning to. Like, I know, in fact, we got a cool vid that our editor put together for us. You guys will see that tomorrow, about Legarius buying his mom a car. Legarius is ready to spend some money. I don't think he's ready for tag money. I do think they work something out with Legarius still. I don't think they're ready to use the tag at all if they don't have to.
Yeah.
Is Veach better?
In Veach, we better trust.
In Veach, we better trust. Just saying. Yes. You're absolutely right, Doug. Because this is the thing. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised from Twitter and from my DMs and everything, every way people have to communicate with me. I've seen less panic now than I saw last year with Tyreek.
Yep.
Now, if this goes the worst case scenario for fans, and the same thing has to happen with Chris Jones, there will be panic. But if it doesn't, this is a much more amenable, and I think that is because of the trust factor in what Veach has been able to pull off and what he's been able, he and his team. And I should make a big point of this. Whenever I say Veach, I mean the entire scouting service. Everyone.
It's amazing what 2 Super Bowls will do, right?
What an idea, right?
And revamping an offensive line and, drafting 6+ rookies that are going to start. It's amazing what that can do. Like, and you have to give credit to everybody. Like, this is a whole coaching staff, front office, scouts, everybody effort. They don't get this done without everybody. And that just goes to show how well they have built this organization from the ground up. It's been awesome.
And it's noticeable across the league because you get people you get people in the league who find out that I cover the team and I'm not on the inside of the league, who are like, oh, you get to talk about what they do every day. I have some very, very interesting conversations this year on planes and things around the country, just about the fact that people see this organization as the one to be now. Mm-hmm. I know the NFLPA report was kind of sour grapes, kind of like a dump right on somebody's chest, but I don't know what to tell you about that. The rest of the league still wants to be the Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry if that was a little too graphic for you. Do you think the Veach has set a hard limit on Jones' extension? It's clear he's prepared to be ruthless, as he's shown with Hill, Clark, and maybe OBJ. And Sugar, you bring up my point exactly. That's why I mentioned. I don't think he set a hard limit, but I think he knows his upper limit. If it comes down to the difference of a total contract of $1 million or $2 million, I think he's going to be pliable. He has to be. He should be. With a talent like Chris Jones. If it comes down to that narrow a gap, you get it done. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a range of expectation. And if it doesn't happen, I think if they find that they get to the point, much like this last weekend was for Frank Clark and Orlando Brown, where you just can't get it done. He's shown that he's able to recoup the loss of a top 5 talent at his position in this league.
Yeah.
I don't want it to happen. I want Chris Jones here on an extension so he ends his career chief.
I agree. Business is business, though.
Yeah, and I ain't in control.
And you have to remember that there's going to be some other tackles that are going to get paid, too. He wants to be right now the second highest paid tackle in the NFL, defense tackle in the NFL. So that tells you you're going to have to pay him $28, $29 million a year.
Sorry, I threw up a little bit right there.
Because we know that Aaron Donald gets paid $31. or he's going to go to that 30 mark and say, I don't want these other guys to beat me out. So let's work it out. And I get 30. So they can't come up.
Right. Oof. I don't know.
And that's the thing.
I don't know.
Is that a line? Is that a line in the sand where they say, we love you, Chris. We would love to have you here forever and ever and ever. We can't do it.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
That's what we're scared of. And maybe I have to think that some of this is clearing space to be able to do the extension that makes Chris mostly happy. Stevie's back. Everybody say hi to Stevie Keys.
What up, Stevie?
One of our longtime members and contributors around here. So Brett Veach is shocking us all, huh? He surprised me. I thought they would leave the tag on and use it as leverage. But shocking, I mean, honestly, should we ever be shocked anymore?
Yeah, right.
I mean, the only thing that we're ever going to be shocked about is if Kelsey gets cut or Patrick doesn't make $30 million in the season. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it's almost like, what's the point these days? Thank you, Stevie. Everybody give Stevie a shout and follow Back Talk Bros as well. They have their channel and they do a hell of a job over there. Do you guys catch the point where they said 19 million was too much? I did not actually see that in print, Cody. I'm sorry. And I was working today, so I didn't see the details, but 19 million is too much. He's not Trent Williams. He's not close. And honestly, I don't know that Trent Williams lived up to Trent Williams this year. So,
well, he's also older and battling injuries too. Like he's getting up there. But he's not David Bakhtiari when he's healthy. He's not the guys that are getting that money. Like he's just not. He's not Laramie Tunsil. And Laramie Tunsil, you know,
that's the move I was going to answer Mark's question with. Thank you, Mark. You set him up perfectly.
There you go.
Would you do it and what's it worth?
Oh, so you probably don't get that done without your 31 plus.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to be able to do that. I think that's just kind of what you have to go into that situation saying we're going to be giving up 31 and then probably some 2024 draft capital, probably a day 2 pick.
I was going to say 64 in 2024. And yes, I do think they'll win the Super Bowl again, folks. That's why I did that. Is that a deal that you do? Because for the 31, it doesn't bother me at all. 31 this year for a guy who's established, and I know his level of performance.
Correct.
I'm comfortable with that. It's the 64 next year that bothers me. 96, I'm happy with.
Depends. It depends on what the average per year value comes down to, how long the contract is. Because again, if you go into next year with him and you win another Super Bowl, it automatically becomes worth it. It does not matter. That's why the sunk cost into Orlando Brown, they didn't care. They won a Super Bowl. It didn't matter. They weren't going to get anything back from him by not tagging and trading him. It was what they did, what they wanted to do.
Yeah. So
I just got to think about the draft capital as more of an investment in your Super Bowl winning. Because if they do it again while he's even there, at any point in that contract, immediately becomes worth it.
Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to is the foresight to put it back together.
Yeah.
What is it? It's 22 free agents off this roster right now, folks.
Yeah.
And I know it's not the core, except for Chris, but it's still significant. Dallas Texans fan, thank you very much. Appreciate you. One of the biggest off seasons we've had in years. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In a no trade up or down scenario, what position do you like with our first rounder? I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like the wide receiver at the first rounder here because I think there's going to be guys that are worth it in the top 15. And then I think the gap is fairly significant.
Yeah. I don't even know if there's anybody that's worth it in the top 15.
Okay.
I wouldn't personally, if I was a team, I wouldn't be taking a wide receiver until after pick 15.
Yeah.
And then
so 15 to 31, you think the guys that are worth first round grades will go?
Yeah. That's when I think they should go. Now, obviously, you have teams that are like, well, I love this guy. We'll go get him. Like, that's different. But I think that I'm probably only going to have maybe three first-round grades on wide receivers this year. Yeah. Like, you should go in the first round. Other than that, they get bumped up because of the need of the position.
Yeah. And folks, you'll see our draft boards. They'll be available on NFL33.com. You can go get subbed over there. Paying subscribers get access to all of our stuff, all of our thoughts, pods, videos, all of our graphics. You get a discount on the Matrix and everything else. And you get to hear when we're wrong. but we'll put out our draft boards. And what you'll find about our draft boards is much like the Patriots and the Chiefs, because the Chiefs usually run around 160 guys. I won't have 31 guys on the top row in the first round. It just ain't the way it's going to work. And so it's hunting and pecking. It's weaving your way through about what other teams have evaluated that they feel are first rounders. So it becomes to the point when you get down to like 23 and there's 2 first-round guys left on your board, that's when you go and you move up like they did for Trent McDuffie.
Yeah.
That's what you go try to attack. And so for me, that's going to come down to groups in the offensive tackle group and in the edge group. Because I do think that there is good value, not elite. Outside of Will Anderson, I don't think there's an edge that belongs in the top 10, personally. At least not right now. But I think there's good meat there in the 20s that's worth getting. And so that's where I'd lean.
I lean tackle.
Fair enough. I mean, and it's a good year for both for giving the Chiefs needs here. Dylan, just a fun question. Who are your 2 non-Chiefs players that you would like to sit down and have a beer with? Mine would be George Kittle and Jason Kelce.
That's a great one too. I mean, Jason Kelce is just a dude, but I feel like I sit down and have a beer with him whenever he's on a podcast, so I can take him out pretty comfortably. I think I know people are not going to like this answer. They're really not. I would love to sit down and see how Joe Burrow is outside of football. I want to see what that's like, because I think he's a phenomenal player. I absolutely love what he does on the field. And I'd like to see what he is outside of character. If this is a show, or if he's just, kind of privileged in his own personal life, like to see how that is. And then I think, I don't know, man. I haven't really given it a ton of thought, but like off the top of my head, Adam Thielen. It's a weird answer. But as he's scrolling on my Twitter feed right now, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I really respect what Adam Thielen has been in the NFL. A guy who, undrafted, and he comes in and he makes his mark, and he seems like one of those just down-to-earth, chill guys that you could just have a beer with. So yeah, why not throw him in there?
I like it. I like the Jason Kelce thing. It pains me to say this, fans. Don't hold it against me, but if I roll up to Mama Kelsey, she's like, come on in, pick one of my kids to hang out with. Jason's more my kind of guy.
Yeah. I love Travis, but I mean,
Travis is a little pretty
too party for me, man.
Yeah, right? I mean, yeah. Like, come on. But I will say this. There's a couple of guys that I find really, really interesting, and it's kind of varied because of their stories and how they got into the league as well and what they've done with it. One guy that fascinates me because he's elite, but he's groovy. Like, I would have a beer. I might even roll up a doobie with D-Hop just to see what happens, because he is kind of an out there dude. I'm not going into a darkness cave with Aaron Rodgers.
No, Sammy Watkins. Give me a beer with Sammy Watkins. I would love that.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Sammy'd be out there. And the other guy that, honestly, he's not in the league anymore, but the guy that I would hang out with because I think I would click, I know where he comes from and all that up there, JJ Watt, and is a guy that I think I could hang out with and get along with. You know what I mean? That'd be fun. Let's see. I know it's a bad draft choice, but man, I want Jahmyr Gibbs to the Chiefs. He reminds me of Jamal. Tony, you're not wrong. I tweeted it out. He's actually quicker and faster than Jamal, just by a couple hundredths of a second in all the testing parameters. He's the closest thing that I've seen in probably 3 or 4 seasons to Jamal. So I totally get it. No, he's still not worth it. I still think he'll probably be a high second-round pick, but it's not worth it to me.
He's so good. I love him.
You got to remember, Jamal was a third-round player. Travis was a third-round player. I mean, yes, they end up being these Hall of Famer guys, but outside of the quarterbacks, even Chris Jones was a second-round player. Like, it's really about what you do when you get here. And Gary would like to know if you have any sleepers that you like.
Gary, it's a little early for my sleepers. I start doing the videos around like 2 weeks before the draft, so that's when I get into the sleepers. But I have one wide receiver who's now starting to not be so much a sleeper, Jaden Reed, wide receiver out of Michigan State, who had, a down year. Michigan State. He came into the season actually having some hype around him, but he's a legit returner. He's a really good special teams player, so he's already going to be like a 4th, 5th round pick. I think the dude can play football. I think he's a really good Z slot receiver. He can actually play on the outside. He's got nice quick feet. He was routing everybody up you put in front of him at the Senior Bowl. Everybody. He was routing them up. He was getting open. He was making plays down the field. He has the speed. I like him a lot. I think he can come in, establish himself as a returner, punt returner immediately, but also has a bit of upside with, a little bit of height. He's 5'11", I think, and then downfield speed. So I like him a lot.
Where is my guy? I forgot his name.
Oh, how do you forget your guy's name? It's not your guy.
Oh, shut up. You got a good point, but shut up. He's the dude that everybody forgets about. He played at Marshall. Stephen Gilmore, not Stefan. Gilmore.
Stephen Gilmore.
He's a mighty mite. He might be 5'9", maybe, but he is gritty. I think he was a combine snub. He was not even invited. I'm double checking that right now. He certainly didn't run, but he was not invited, I don't think. They list him at 5'11", 170 pounds. I don't think he's either of those things. But if you go watch, every time he got a chance to play up a division, he played Notre Dame this year. They took on, I can't remember who they played up. They played like a Power 5 school last year, and he showed out. Like I'm really up on him. He played 848 snaps this season, and he gave up 23 targets. I'm sorry, 23 receptions on 55 targets. He's got the lowest reception allowed percentage in this draft class, and he's undersized. He's scrappy, and he's pissed off all the time. I love it. Makes me happy. Quick 3-round mock for KC. Assume they go O tackle, D-line, wide receiver. In that, but not necessarily that order. What are your dream but realistic choices? Hit me, brother.
Man, 3-round. I don't even know if I have that many players in my head right now. Well, I'm all about Anton Harrison in the first round. I love. I can tell you guys, I'm talking about a lot. Him or Darnell Wright at 31. I'm happy with, and then you switch that around. Maybe you go Derek Hall at 31, and then you can go flip it either or and get a tackle like Cody Mock. Probably, I think he can play tackle in the NFL. He's an athletic guy. He's going to play guard / tackle. You try him out at tackle first, I think, in the first or second round. Maybe hit Zach Harrison in the second if you go tackle first. And then in the third round, I think Yushevich,
Princeton.
I think he's going to end up being a late day 2 pick because of his athletic ability. But, that's off the top of my head. It's probably not where I would go right now because, like I said, I don't have everything in front of me. I don't have a draft board in front of me, and I'm not going to pull them up and waste a bunch of time. But that's what I would give.
First round, I'm down with either of your thoughts. I would lean Darnell a little bit over Anton right now, not by much. I would still trade up into the 20s, maybe the low teens to get Broderick Jones. That's without a doubt. If available, I'm going with Tommy. He's probably not. So then I'm coming back and I'm looking at Diaby is his name. You guys will hear more about him shortly. Looks like I had a little drop out there. And then in the third's like kind of the sweet spot for the receiver group. And
yes,
2 guys that will be there, in my opinion, 3 guys, slightly different. Tillman, Perry, and Trey Palmer. I think they all bring a couple of different things. I think they're all 80s, 90s type picks. I can take either of them depending on what I really feel they need to do.
Yeah, give me Cedric Tillman. He escaped my mind, but I like Cedric Tillman.
Okay,
quite a bit.
Folks, we're going to speed up because I am a sloth and we have to get this stuff done. Apologies, Dan. Now that we know the Browns most likely gone, do they address the holes in free agency or stick to the draft? Sean, it's going to be a bit of both, and it's going to depend on who the deal is and what the deal is, who the guy is and who the deal is to try to get that done. I do like the idea of Isaiah Wynn. I'm fine with him playing on the right-hand side. I like him. And I think with Andy Heck's coaching, he can get into the mold back where his feet were when he was at Georgia. So I'm okay with that, but I'm probably alone.
I don't know if you're alone, but I think Andy Heck could
I'm lonely.
help him out.
Okay. Bandwagon. Tight end is pretty deep this year, but Kelsey is getting older. Do you think that they need an heir apparent? Which top 50 tight end would you most likely try and take a step into that role? Who do you got?
Darnell Washington. Give me Darnell Washington in this offense. We're talking about a Jody who's a bit more of a blocker, a bit more athletic.
You can't deny that. You can't deny that. I will give you this, though. He was more athletic at the combine than he is on film.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's still, even on film, more athletic than Jody is. No offense to Jody.
No,
he's just pretty stiff.
Jody's great. Yeah, he is very stiff. The guys that I'm high on right now I've been concentrating on day 3 guys. And that was the 2 guys that stand out to me are Schoonamaker, and I like Vokalek from Nebraska. I think he'll be a very late round, 6th, maybe even 7th. And I think he's got a guy that's got some upside. I won't call anybody an heir apparent, though.
Can't do it.
Thank you, Bandwagon. Canadian Chief, thank you as well. How about Canadian Matt Bergeron to replace Brown? 33 inches. A lot of people are going to say that that's going to bow you out, but I will say this. He's good at hand control. He's good at deflecting the punch and the long arm of a lot of defensive ends at the college level. The question's going to be for me, if you evaluate him, he's got to come in for a visit. And I got to make sure that I feel that he's good enough to stop the hands of guys like Khalil Mack, guys that are super long and they can get to his chest. That's my only concern.
I just need to, you're going to have to trade up in the 2nd round for him. That's what it's going to, he's not going to be, I'm not taking him at 31, and he's not going to be there at 63. So what do you do?
Fair enough. What do you guys think of Tillman and Rice? And thank you, by the way, Canadian Chief. Appreciate you. What do you think of Tillman and Rice? Do you think that Carter might fall in the draft? They find him to be innocent. I think he'll still fall either way. How far will be just whether anything legal gets decided before the draft or not. I'm not banking that anything gets decided. Yeah. Your thoughts on Rice? I think we both like Tillman pretty good.
We do like Tillman. Rice's tape was up and down, showed a lot of different signs of having good route running, but it adds a lot of extra steps in his breakdowns. And I don't think he understands. Now, again, this is maybe just SMU's offense. I don't know if he understands defensive coverages, because he's just running his route, and that's it. And it's also a very limited route tree, which is SMU's fault. That doesn't mean he can't run more routes. It's just hard to know what the route tree is, because guys come out, I can run more routes. My offense didn't want me to. Quentin Johnston ran 3 routes at TCU. 3. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he ran curls, posts, and goes. Every once in a while, you got to dig or a curl. No, excuse me.
Deep over.
That or a little bit of a drag every once in a while. But it's hard to. I like Rice. His athletic testing did not match his film to me.
True.
And that was weird. Did he just train really well for it? Or is this something he can tap into? Maybe he was injured last season. Things that I don't know.
Yeah. He tested out really well. He's going to be in the top 10 in the Matrix. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's weird. Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate you. Jesus, appreciate you. Lawan, OBJ, or draft? Draft by a landslide now.
Yeah. No thanks for Lawan. I liked him before he started to get hurt every single year.
Hey, if I'm building a podcast, I'm drafting him tomorrow. But not to play on the field. Cavelli, thank you. Even more of a need for edge, right? Maybe a free agency as well as the draft. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's going to be about the dollars. I think there's an interesting tweener in Yannick Ngakoue. I just don't know if they can pull him around, but Joe Cullen has experience with him. And I'd be really interested to see if they show interest. Dan doesn't like it, though.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, okay.
I got things going.
You got stuff. Yannick Ngakoue as a fit could be there.
Oh, yeah. No,
Miss Holly, thank you very much. Dan is still disgusted. It's fine. What do you make of the anonymous survey where players put the Chiefs as a poor grade? I do find that very interesting that it was so specific to Rick Burkholder. I will say this. Burkholder does come off to me as a guy that is more of a CEO of a department than a players first guy. They were also very specific to give accolades and attaboys to the actual training staff that they work with every day. So I'm concerned. I just don't know how much of it I can rely on if it's disgruntled players. I mean, maybe Shady got to do 80% of those votes. I don't know.
That's the thing. Who was interviewed? Who was interviewed? Because every time you hear somebody talk about their training staff, it's nothing but glowing remarks. It's nothing but glowing remarks.
Yeah.
Like Travis on his podcast was talking about how they got him ready for the AFC Championship game. It was nothing but glowing remarks. I'm glad. Good job eating your blueberries.
Well done.
So yeah, it's tough to really understand and know who got interviewed, especially because this was before last year. So all those guys could have been gone. We don't know. I got no idea.
They may very well be. Who knows? Great question though, Holly, and it is something I think we have to keep tabs on, but I don't know how to read it yet. Rob, do you guys feel like DeAndre Hopkins? How do you feel about him, and what would you give to get him?
Upstairs.
I like D Hop. Like I said, I would love to have a beer with him and see where that conversation goes. And I do think he still has something to offer, but I do think he's seen the top of his career arc and he's on the back side of it. So for me, I won't trade for him, but I would bring him in. I'm very comfortable 10, 12 mil. I can live with that. He's worth that, in my opinion.
I'd like to, but what are they going to do with him?
Yeah.
Are they going to let him be a contested catch guy? Are they going to let him play out of the slot? Because guess what? That's where he's best right now.
Is it? Okay. That's troublesome because you got now 3 guys that are best out of the slot.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Ain't enough slot snaps to go around here, Phil. Hey, guys, great to see you again. So with all this news today, do you think the team will approach to the draft changes or stay the same, drafting the best player they did, or just DTE? It's a combination. They're going to draft the best player available at OT, DE, or wide receiver. So it is those 3 columns on the board, whoever's the best available then, unless they are really light on first-round grades this year and say they only have 15 and all 15 of those guys go.
Yeah.
Then they're going to be stuck. And then we'll look for either a late, like maybe even during their pick trade out, which probably won't net much if it's that late, but that'll give us an idea. I don't think you go back to like the cornerback well or the tight end well just because you're there at 31. Dan agrees. Luan has averaged half a season the last 3 years. Yeah, that's a very good point. Corbin, with regards to Snead, has KC set a precedent with their values by trading Marcus Peters and letting Ward and Kendall Fuller walk? Partially. I will say this, though. It is more about Peters' personality that sent him packing. It is not about his play, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Ward, Fuller, guys that they picked up after they were not draft picks. They picked them up as possibilities, and then they had to let them go. They got the comp picks back from him. Snead is homegrown, and I think there is a distinction there, particularly for this staff that was in on his selection.
Yeah, and he also kind of plays their premium position slot outside. Peters couldn't do that, and he couldn't man up on people. Be honest, he couldn't. He played off really, really well, and if he guessed wrong, he got beat. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah. Stevie had a good point. Veach hasn't really operated without leverage or a safety net. That's true. Is Tooney that safety net, or we truly don't have an LT? I think it's more we truly don't have an LT. They know Joe could do it in a pinch. I don't think they could set him up for a season. But I will say this. I think it's also been kind of a rare thing that Veach ever gets to this point where a player is just so stuck in the mud that they can't have a conversation. So I put it a little bit more on that myself.
They were trying, Niang at left tackle. Do they think that he can play left tackle now? I don't know.
Yeah. Miss Vicky, thank you for your question. I think we already answered it. We're not sure that Snead is going to get a tag. I don't think the Chiefs use the tag now. We have the league's MVP and Patrick Mahomes. Can elevating most any receiver, any wide receivers, period. You're absolutely right. The question is, can he do that and still be successful enough to win? At some point, there is a limit to just how much raw material he has that he can lift up. So I do think you still have to keep investing in talent. Maybe raw is okay with a guy like him, but I think that's the way it goes. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it's tough because you don't really know how everybody does. Like even Brady at the end of his tenure in New England, who was he throwing to? Chris Hogan? Come on. Like at some point, even the best of the best can't elevate everybody. So to the question, it's you still, and we've heard Brett Veach talk about always bringing guys in. They're always going to look at weapons. They're always going to find ways to do that. And I think that's a big thing because they understand that, yeah, he can elevate guys. He showed that this year. But they don't want to always have to let that be a thing he has to do every single year. Make his job easier.
Yeah, agreed. Great question, Doug. Brent, do you think that who do you think will fill Frank's leadership role? That's a good question. I think day in, day out, it's probably going to be Nick Bolton. I think he's got to take a little bit more active role. I know he's kind of a quieter guy, but I think he can do that. The question's going to be is when it comes down to crunch time, who elevates that? And that's what I'm not sure of yet.
It's going to have to be Justin Reed. That's kind of why he was brought in as well. You have a lot of softer spoken guys in Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones, Mike Dana. Like all these guys are more soft spoken, and we've seen Reed be outspoken on Twitter. Wondering if he can be outspoken in the defensive huddle too.
Yeah, let's hope that we just don't know that part yet.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're looking for an alpha at the defensive end point. That they need some new blood for that. I feel like Karlaftis is not a vocal leader either, at least not yet. Your thoughts on DeJuan Jones and City So? Also, is Isaiah McGuire a solid day 3 guy in the draft? Isaiah McGuire doesn't he play for the Bills?
That's a defensive end out of Missouri, I believe.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Well, then you answer this question, and I'll go look at him.
Well, DeJuan Jones, again, we kind of covered DeJuan Jones. He's really a right tackle who's not going to be super athletic in the NFL. I know he tested well for a guy his size, but he's not going to be able to overcome a lot of the shortcomings that his body type brings. That's just kind of what it is. And if you're okay with that at right tackle, you're okay with that at right tackle. I don't think the Chiefs are, unless you're Mitchell Schwartz. And not everyone can be Mitchell Schwartz and use elite, advanced technical understanding of the position to overcome some of your deficiencies as an athlete. So I'm not a huge DeJuan Jones fan. I have not seen City So, and McGuire is okay.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking about developmental guys. I don't know if they can continue to take shots on guys that need so much on day 3 anymore. They need defensive ends that can come in and produce now. That's why we're talking about first, second round picks, because they have to be able to come in and start playing now. Defensive ends aren't corners. You can't put them in a system and let them work that way. It doesn't work that way. You have to get top picks, trade up, or get them when you can and just kind of hit.
Well, and they've taken their shots on lottery tickets and they haven't hit. Okay, that's fine. That's not a problem. But yeah, you're right. Now it's time to get a little bit more serious. I've watched McGuire twice live, and I just checked my notes, and I did think that he had enough get off to make it work, but that he was underpowered. And I'm just looking at his athletic testing now. He's certainly within the range that's draftable. He's a little bit under the 7-year average, not by a gross margin, but a little bit. So certainly has upside, but I would put him squarely in the Herring Kando type, day 3 type range. But certainly worth taking a look at. Great question, Josh. Day, glad you're back. Thanks for the support. Wish that I could watch lives more often. I get that while they're going, but love everything RGR channel and crew does. Thank you very much. And what's your thoughts on OU's Marvin Mims? Thank you very much for the support, Day, and I'm glad you're back. Talk to me about Mims.
I know that there's some people in here that like Marvin Mims. I know there's a lot of people out there on Twitter that like Marvin Mims. I don't like Marvin Mims very much. I'll be honest.
I'm not one of them.
I'm not one of them. For what I think he does well, that's good. He's a much better contested catch guy than you'd expect at Oklahoma. Okay,
where they don't play defense in the Big 12. Sorry.
Defense. You're not wrong. Also, there's a lot of guys in this draft class that do that. That go down that are speed guys. Also, he ran faster than he is on tape. He's not a 4.3 guy. He's not. He was not running away from guys. He never really threatened guys deep. A lot of his big plays came off of busted coverages. Guys just forgot that he was there. And I don't like it. I'm not trying to crap on the guy. I just, for what I've seen, a second round pick. I think he's a third round pick, and I think he's mostly in the realm of what McCole Hardman is. I think that's what he is in the NFL.
I don't disagree in terms of where. Third round seems about right. I could even see it in the 4th, to tell you the truth, because of the limitation of what was there. I do think there's a hangover effect from the loss of what's his name that went to USC.
Oh, yeah. I know. Caleb Williams.
Yeah. And obviously with Lincoln Riley.
Which one?
I meant Caleb, but also the other receiver that left as well, the kid with the blonde hair. I don't remember where he went though. But like everybody scattered on him, and Marvin was kind of last guy standing. You know what I mean? So I didn't feel like he had a lot there in terms of support. I do like him, and he tested out more agile in short area quickness than I expected him to. So that has me feeling a little bit more positive.
Can I have the remote, please?
Thank you. Appreciate you, Dede. Ryan, do you want me to do proofreading this year? Stevie, I might have to have you do that, dude. You know I need the help. Luckily, it's not just going to be me typing words this year. So
yeah, right.
That's going to be an advantage.
I know.
How do you guys think the financials will look on these two moves today? Cody, I can tell you I've already run the numbers, and they have just under 17 million available now with these two moves. So they're in compliance. They had till tomorrow to do that. The question is, what else gets done? That's not enough, really, I think, to sign anyone of significance in free agency. So I do think there's still moves to come.
Let's got to turn it on first.
I hope this is an extension.
I just want to let everybody know we do have quite a lot of super chats left and a lot of questions. We're hitting the hour mark right now. So I apologize if we don't get all of your questions answered. Continue to ask them as on Twitter, as we do more live streams. We will get to them. We can't just answer all of them tonight, unfortunately. We got some more stuff to do.
I will get every super chat though, so if you need to go, you need to go. But as for other questions,
letting everybody know, like
rock and roll.
We're not gonna be here for 2 hours, unfortunately. I'd like to be here for 2 hours, but I'm not going to be here for 2 hours.
Right? We got lives. I got kids to go pick up and stuff. That's the way it goes. Thank you. Jalen Carter rose up the board for me. Do you think there's any chance that he falls? Yes, Tatum. I do think he falls, definitely. But he may meet you in the middle. Who knows? Dede's got another one. Shocked that OBJ isn't getting the tag, but I trust Veach. After the combine, is there a new RB that you want drafted? Is there anyone new? I mean, Dan and I were both huge on Charbonnet before. I still love Kenny. I don't care what his testing number said and his straight speed. I do feel like just in general, maybe the timing was off on the running back group. They all felt a little slow to me.
It was very weird.
So Charbonnet, Kenny, Roshan, still happy with all those guys. The newer guy he was just new to me, really. Was Hull. I had watched their offense, but only from a perspective of watching Skoronski. I dig the fact that he ran through it all. That he ran a touchdown on every dang touch that he got. Specifically because he was showing he has the endurance to play these games, where if he gets a couple of breakaways, he's not going to fold on you. I have not watched much film on him, but I came away liking him a little bit more.
I like Evan Hall quite a bit. The guy that surprised me was Deneric Prince out of Tulsa. He was good everywhere. He was explosive. He ran a good 40. I think Chase Brown is fool's gold. I think he's a very good athlete. I don't think he's a very good running back. A lot of people like Keaton Mitchell. He ran a 4.37, smaller guy. I guess you could pair him with Pacheco, but he's not for me. I still like Tank Bigsby a lot. I don't care what his 40 time was. I think he's faster than that.
Fair enough.
By quite a bit. I won't say like low 4.4s, but I thought he was in a 4.45-ish range. But I still love Tajay Spears. He's not going to be in range for them to draft, but I love Tajay. I love him so much.
I was disappointed when you get to see Keandre Miller. I thought he might be recovered enough to run, but evidently not.
Yeah.
Chris Anderson, what are your thoughts on the left tackle from BYU who's super athletic? He's a great athlete. He's not much of a football player.
I disagree with that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, we were at the same Senior Bowl, right? And you watched him get destroyed over and over and over.
I watched a lot of tape of him too. I mean, I think that he, when you get shocked like that, he played BYU. Like it is a bump up. You're also facing a lot of guys that are Senior Bowl. The guys have been doing it a long time from the SEC. It's a little bit of a different bump. Like you don't expect him to go to the NFL and just be a stud. I don't expect him to do that. But I like what he offers. I think he has good technique. His feet are light. They keep under him. And he's got the length. I do think he has some good torque in his hips and upper body. The tools are there. How about I say that? The tools are there for him to be a guy that ends up going probably in the second round and can be productive in the NFL. Maybe not a stud.
I think he goes later than that myself. And my big problem with him, he doesn't know when to try to anchor. He's late sinking every single time. It drives me nuts on film because he could probably do it if he would just get after it more aggressively. But yeah, very, very athletic. Reminds me of a less angry Eric Fisher.
Yeah. I like that.
Fair enough. Stuff happens. Thank you, Dede. Appreciate you. We will keep churning away. Thank you for being here as always. Is the running back class this year the fastest for many years? No, it is not. It's one of the slower for the last number of years. In fact, I have the matrix numbers here for explosive range. This is the fewest number of running backs over the 7-year average in the last 3 classes.
Yeah, it was. I fully believe that the times were a little.
I was just going to say if those times are correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steve, I would love to see that on retesting on pro days. Pro days are always a little bit faster. People are a little friendly with the clocks on the pro days, but we'll take that with a grain of salt. JT, wide receivers in this draft that you want in the first 3 rounds. Go.
Oh man, I'm a Josh Downs guy. I love Josh Downs so much. Here, let me just pull these up really quickly because I have it already up. I like Yoshivas. I do. I think he's a good player, but again, he's older. He's probably going to be more of a day 3 guy. He's not going to go in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
But I do think, where is he? Charlie Jones might be an option in day 3 as well. But first 3 rounds, I'm comfortable taking Jaden Reed in the 3rd round. I know that's high for a lot of people. And A.T. Perry as well. Again, that speed was surprising for me. Did not expect that from him, but he's long, excellent technician in his stem. Very, very good at stacking and winning. So I like that a lot. So those are Josh Downs, A.T. Perry, and Jaden Reed are 3 guys that I like a lot.
I like it. I don't know that Tillman will last all the way there, but he's one of them. Obviously, we've talked about him a couple times. Perry, one of my guys. I think Xavier Hutchinson could be good. I like Ronnie Bell. They might both be top of the 3rd day rather than 3rd round, but that's okay. Mitchell Tinsley is still my guy. I won't take him until the 5th or 6th.
Yeah, right.
But still my guy. I think he's got potential. And the guy that I think had the most underrated combine, I don't know if I could take him at 95, but I'd be tempted. Bobo from UCLA.
Oh, see, I love Bobo. I like Bobo a lot. And
right?
He's going to be a really good big slot receiver. But another
he's a cleaner, more versatile version of Justin Watson. That's what I think. And
he's
not
I
like
the speed guy, though. Watson's got him on speed by quite a bit.
Very, very true. Very true. But kudos for him for wearing a ball cap while you're running the gauntlet. Crazy son of a bitch. How many edges at the end of the 1st round do you think will be better than Karlaftis? Will.
At the end of the 1st round.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, at the end of the 1st round. I mean, it depends what you mean by better. That's really what it is, because unless they get somebody really good, Georgia's going to be in for a much harder sophomore year. Because without Frank and Chris to take away from him, they're going to slide his direction knowing that they can have the backside tackle and guard double team Chris. Yeah. That's going to be a little bit more difficult for him. So as I look at it, guys that are going to be available at the end of the 1st. Ooh, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I think Miles Murphy might last that long.
Okay.
I don't know if he's better than George. It feels like he should be, but I'm not sold. I think Nolan Smith's going to go in the 20s now, you guys. I think he's out of range. And honestly, while I do think he's the more explosive, the more dynamic pass rusher, which I like, I don't know that in this particular setup he could be better.
Yeah.
Because they are depending on them to be power edges. Hall, Dan's guy. Felix.
I feel like Hall could be a better pass rusher right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good run defender. I believe Derek Hall could be better than George Karlaftis was his rookie season. Myself, I'm excited to see George in the 2nd year, but you also need to get somebody out there. So continue.
Agreed. I think Tyree Wilson's going to be good. I don't know that he's going to be as good as everybody thinks he's going to be. I think he and George might have very similar beginnings to their careers. Who tops out better, I think, depends a lot on system. The guy that I'm really intrigued by, because he has to be used drastically differently than he was at K-State, is Felix Antuike Uzama. He might be able to be better than George. I don't know. It's much more of a throw the dart kind of thing. Julian's back. Nice to see you, buddy. Would you trade for Kyle Pitts? I'm just throwing it out there. I watched his film this past season. He's being underused in Atlanta. Yes, as is Drake. I'd give Atlanta a first in 25 and a third in 23 or 24. Thoughts? I have trouble doing that, only because I can't tell if it's just underutilization by the offense or if there's some reason that he's not ready to be utilized. And unless I were able to figure that out some way, giving up a first, even 2 years removed, is a little bit difficult for me. But I'm totally with you on the 23rd now. I could go a second next year and third this year. Probably feel pretty good about it. What do you think, Dan?
I wouldn't trade for him because they're going to ask for way too much.
Yep,
and
true.
That's just not going to happen.
I'm with you. Thank you, though, Julian. Good to see you. Jesus, Tommy Adebayo, Clark comp, or Nolan Smith in the first round. Tommy is not a Clark comp in any way. He is not that long. He's not that tall. He's way heavier. He is a inside penetrating 3-tech is what he should be. They keep calling him edge. They keep calling Lucas Van Ness an edge. He ain't an edge. They just lined him up there because Iowa didn't know what the hell else to do with him. But Nolan Smith is much closer a comp to Frank Clark than Adewale is, because Nolan's only about, I mean, honestly, he's probably only 5 pounds lighter than Frank played last year. He's about the same height. I think Frank has him by an inch. Frank does have at least an inch in his arm length as well, though. Nolan's came in, what did it come in at? I have it right here. Came in under 33. That's a little bit of an issue. Frank is just under 34, if I remember correctly. So that's an advantage. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Tom. We were more draft heavy last year in the defense, and particularly in the secondary. And the position area, you think they're going to go draft heavy this year? I do think it's going to be the defensive line as a whole, not necessarily just edge. And depending on what happens in free agency, it might be tackle as well.
Sorry, my daughter is trying to do a ton of stuff over here.
You're good. You're good. And hey, if you're done, you're done. I'm going to get through these super chats, no problem.
She's going to get pajamas. She'll be fine.
All right. Oh, Gooch made it. Hey, Stevie's saying,
Gooch?
hey, Gooch. And thank you, Stevie. Figuring you'd take a nap after the workout, doing all that celebratory dancing with the news of Frank getting cut. Yeah, Gooch has got to be a happy dude. And he said, thank you, Gooch. Got my second win on that river dancing. I will take it out of you. I even put my guns up in honor of Frank. That's awesome. Kind of makes you feel like river dancing. It just happens sometimes. Thank you, guys. Nice to see you. Ryan, how could you choose Jason over Travis? I'm sorry, Mark. I knew this was going to happen. After Travis shows his exceptional conversational skills on SNL. More. He did. He creeped me out a couple times too. That thing with the thing on the chick's foot just drove me nuts. I couldn't deal with it. I had to shut it off. It was bad. But yes, I'm just saying, Jason's more my kind of guy. What does Laramie Tunsil or Andrew Thomas, someone like that, cost in terms of a trade? Same as pass rusher like Burns. First, you got to make sure that they want to get rid of him. I don't think Carolina's going to move on from Burns at all. So, like, you could throw multiple ones at him, and they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
I think Tunsil's going to take at least a 1 and a 3. I think Thomas is probably a 2 and a 3 at a minimum. But depending on how much their teams are in love with them, you know.
You're going to pretty much have to give up your first-round draft pick this year. And then on top of it, add other stuff to it. So it's how much you want to commit to it, unless you just think you can figure it out other way. But if not, we know Veach will take swings on trades. He's done it before. He's not afraid to do it. So we'll see.
I mean, you got to remember, especially in Andrew Thomas, they found gold as well.
Yeah.
You know, I had him as a 5th round. I think I had him as a 5th round pick. And they're not going to pass on that contract either, I don't think, because regardless, he's still going to be cheaper than they would be. Thanks, Caddy. Thank you, Tom. Basing your opinion on only 40 times. Any of the fastest 40-time players in this draft that you would take and why? What's the best pick? Okay, so super speed. There's only 2 positions here. There's wide receivers and there's corners. And that's the way that it is.
That's not true. There's a running back in there.
Oh, was there? Okay. Sorry, I always forget about those guys. I don't know. Right now, I'm leaning heavily towards the 4-3-5 of Deontay Banks, but I don't know. What do you got, Dan?
I'm gonna take the 4-3-6 of Jameer Gibbs and run away because he's the best player, all around player of all of these guys.
Okay, fair enough. I can't argue that. He's a Jamal Charles replacement. Sorry,
Yep.
Jamal. Do you believe we trade CH, keep for insurance? And I just don't want to see him with his former team in Cincy with an axe to grind. I don't think it matters. I don't think he can grind much.
It doesn't matter. I think that not only is his confidence gone, he's not changing the way he plays football. He is a very hesitant back behind the line of scrimmage. He's waits too long, tries to make linebackers miss, and in the NFL, you're gonna get tackled when you do that. Like he's trying to always move second level defenders. Sometimes just gotta hit a hole, and he kind of refuses to do that. So it doesn't really matter much.
Yeah. Say the Princeton wide receiver's name again because I can't do it.
Andre, I think it's Yoshivas.
Yoshivas?
I believe so.
Okay, I'm gonna go with that, brother. So you better be right, or I'm gonna sound
Yoshivas.
stupid. But Mark S, that's the guy we were talking about. And Mark Lawrence, I don't think there's a trade market for him. So I think he will be on the roster. Disenfranchised
Yoshivas.
as he is. Yoshivas.
Oh,
dang.
Bosh.
It's done. I'm gonna mess that up.
Yo,
Little Caddy, Marvin Mims equals Denzel Mims minus Dan Harms in 2023. Okay, I like that.
Oh man, that's kind of funny.
Or is that just attribution there? Is that equals Denzel?
I don't
credited?
that might be what that is. Denzel is way taller.
Yeah, he's a different animal, that guy. Stevie, again, thanks, buddy. Do you like any of the Iowa guys for this team? Actually, I like them all. I just think Van Ness in particular is being over touted right now. I think he's a second round player that doesn't know what he's doing right now and is not an edge like they keep wanting him to be. Although he tested curiously good at short area quickness, I didn't see that on the field enough.
Yeah.
His straight line speed is okay, but he's not an edge. I think he's going to be an incredible 3-tech, and he can play the 5. I do think he's very good. I like Laporta 4th-ish, and I think Campbell's probably still a day 3 guy. It depends on what you need at linebacker.
That's funny. That's interesting. I think that Campbell's going to go in the second round.
You think so?
Yeah, I think he will, but we'll see. I like all of them. I just think that they have problems. Like you said, Van Ness is not really a defensive end in the NFL. Maybe he will be eventually, but I don't think out the gate he is. Laporta's too small. He's not. I'm sorry.
He's an H, though. I mean, you can use him.
You can use him as a weapon. He's not playing tight end for you. He's not inline blocker. He's not doing any of that for you. It's just not happening. And like I said, Campbell, they don't have a need at linebacker right now. They can't draft one in the first 2 days. They can't.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough all the way around. I mean, what are you going to do? Let's see here. Thank you, Gary. We appreciate you. And we're here because you're here. So thank you very much. You guys, if you would hit the thumbs up like Gary did, we would appreciate it. Cashmade Jay, thank you very much, sir. Who's wideout that would fit KC out of the draft? And great job. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Who's the wideout that would fit KC?
I'm just thinking he's a wide receiver you like that will fit.
The best fit. I don't know. You got one, Dan? I'm going to look at some numbers for a second.
I think it is Cedric Tillman. I think Cedric Tillman might be the best fit for what, in terms of what they need. They have a ton of slot receivers. From watching him in 2021, I think he has more ability to separate on the outside than a lot of the guys in this draft class that are his size and that are going to be at X. He also profiles as one of the only true X's out of this entire draft class. Mm-hmm. And they do need one, regardless of whether it's going to be this year or next year. With MVS being back or MVS being gone next year, regardless, they're going to need somebody else to play that X role. So I think it's Tillman.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't think you can take him to the late day, but I'll say the guy that has maybe the best fit for their need is Bryce Ford Wheaton, because he's 6'4", X size, 220 pounds. He came in at, but
had a really good combine too.
Yeah, 4.38 straight speed, and I think He finished number 2 just slightly in change of direction. So he's got the wiggle as well. Like he's the kind of guy they want that's a little bit of everything. I think he's a day 3 guy.
I'm gonna have to watch his tape though. I need to see what he's got.
Right. And I didn't watch him at all this year. I saw him in 21, but didn't watch him this year. Thanks, Cashmate. Appreciate you.
It, man.
And info, you're going to be our last question of the night, unless there's a super chat I don't know about.
There is
and
now.
Teddy literally says that. And that's awesome. Teddy's always good for the end of the show. Would the Chargers trade their backup left tackle to us that played so well this season? No. Jamari Salyer will eventually be a starter for them, likely on the right-hand side.
He's a 4-position player. He can play left tackle, can play right tackle, can play left guard, can play right guard. It does not matter. He's not going anywhere.
Jamari Salyer's the reason Broderick Jones didn't play left tackle last year.
Correct. I can't believe
21.
he was a 6th-round pick. I loved his tape.
I had him in the 3rd, and people told me I was nuts. Jamari Salyer is one of my hey, I can hang my little hat on there because people thought I was stupid.
I loved him. Yeah. I think I had him in the 3rd round too. If I'm not mistaken, I think so.
Oh man,
I love this tape.
But info, sadly, no, they will not let him go. Teddy, thank you. Great timing as always, my friend. Guessing Orlando news means that wide receiver gets pushed down to the 3rd round. Yes. And they trade up for LT. I don't know if they trade up.
Yeah.
I am pleasantly surprised to hear that there are several outside analysts, including Lance Zerling, that think that Broderick Jones lost draft stock.
That's fine.
So, cheers
love
to
it.
you.
Love
yes, please. I would love it if they didn't have to trade up to get him. That would be wonderful. But no, I do think it's going to be edge or left tackle in the 1st round, depending on the board, of course, or unless just something crazy like when Johnson falls to them or something somebody get popped for weed next week and it's going to dampen their draft stock. You never know. I call it the Justin Houston effect. Nice. Take DJ Turner and convert him to a wide receiver. Why? He's pretty good DB.
He's a really good corner. He's a really good corner.
I mean, do you want to play Iron Man football? I could have him do both.
I mean, if he's up for it, maybe in the first, second years, he's got enough tread on the tires to do it. Yeah, fine.
I've tried dumber things. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the time, Dan. Thanks for Miss Avery. Thank her for me personally.
Of course.
We appreciate you guys being here. It's been a fun day. There's going to be more news coming. We need to know about Chris Jones. We need to understand what the next move is. I don't know that the week's over. I think Brett Veach has more up his sleeve. There's a lot of conversation going on. The Matrix should be ready by next week. Go pre-order now at rogueapc.com. I'm going to throw that up there again just because I'm terrible. And people call me when stuff doesn't make sense. So actually, I'm going to let you sign this out, Dan. I'm not going to show it up. Check out Rogue APC, and I will be back with you guys next week. We are going to have all the normal stuff this week, film, et cetera, et cetera. I might drop another live here on Thursday if we get something juicy. So if you would like something, hit the bell, please. I would appreciate it. And we will talk to you next time.